Alright guys, welcome back. So in this episode, I'm going to be wrapping up the rest of the project. Now, as per suggestions, I'm inclined to do a couple of bonus episodes a little bit later. I also have a couple of features I have in my mind, and I will discuss those a little bit towards the end of this video. Now, first of all, I am extremely sick. I haven't really been able to make any videos lately, and this is me trying to pretty much power through. So, first of all, what I want to talk about is tweaking, right? So, our jump was acting a little bit lethargic, and the way I pretty much fixed my jump was by changing the gravity situation. Now, I forgot to open my scripts, and it's going to take a while, so I apologize, but please just stick with me. And I'm going to keep on talking. So, if you remember while we were jumping, in fact, while it's loading, let me show you something pretty cool. So, in the meantime, I have been trying to publish Crazy Cabbie on iOS, and it seems to be up and running. So, for those of you who are on iOS, and if you want to just have a look and support me, feel free to download this. Maybe even if you could leave a nice little review, that would be helpful. I do think though that I think I accidentally left a game crashing bug in this little build, simply because of the plugin that I was using to serve ads, and I guess that's what I get for serving ads, right? So I think if that is, I'm gonna have to test that a little bit on a couple of different devices, and if you guys see your app crashing, then do let me know in the comments below. Because that's something that I'm gonna probably fix, and I'm just gonna go with something more traditional like AdMob or something like that. So yeah, I've been working on how to export the project from Unity to Xcode, and honestly, for me, being a completely non-iOS Xcode developer, my God, this has been a real pain in the ass. So people will have you believe that things are so easy and just one click button, etc. But it was smooth sailing for Android, but geez, man, iOS just like killed me. So yeah, I've been using my Mac, and now I'm back on my Windows. So just watch out for me constantly hitting the function key, and the command key and the control key, and just the confusion. And also, I'm sick, as I said. So yeah, I expect all those sort of issues to happen. Now, getting back now that it's loaded and I've conveniently made up my time, here's the thing. There's a couple of ways how you could fix the jump, right? Over here we were jumping, and this is where we were setting the velocity upwards a certain so much, and I have changed this in between videos, you might have noticed. Now, you can go and before changing the gravity that I will show you very soon, you can try and maybe find a suitable number for this. Like we were using 5, maybe reduce it a little bit better, a little bit more to get the kind of effect you're looking for. But even with this reduced situation, I just wasn't getting a like a click snappy feel that I wanted, and that's when I started to find to play around with the gravity, and I found a nice little even point in between the gravity and the jump, which worked well for me. So I'm going to show you what I mean. So we've got this, and as you can see, our jump is very snappy and it works well. So I'm going to tell you these settings, but while I'm here, I'm also going to try and show you a bug which none of you mentioned. So just keep an eye out on the pickups, and you'll start to see some weird patterns for our pickups. Some patterns which we didn't code. So what's that about? And you'll also notice that the more pickups that we end up picking, it seems that they are reducing. So as you can see, there's large stretches of road where there are no pickups. And if you remember, we were enabling and disabling them perfectly. Remember, we even talked about this. So what the hell is going on here? So that is something that I want to try and fix in this video as well. This I really luckily stumbled upon this. So yeah, let's have a look at those things first. So first of all, I pretty much set this to 15, and if you set this to 15 with the normal gravity, your car is going to shoot up. So I tweaked around, and you can go over here in Edit, and you can go in Project Settings and Physics, and I bumped up the gravity to 7 times what it normally is. So normally it's 9.81, and I made it to about -70, and that worked out well. So feel free to fool around and see what kind of settings you like. You might be able to find a more realistic feel or the kind of feel that you're looking for. But yeah, this is I felt this was a good way to sort this problem to make it a little bit more snappy. Now, I don't know if changing the gravity is considered bad practice and such, but it worked for me. So if you guys have a suggestion for like maybe how I could make it a little bit more snappier, a little bit more bouncier, then feel free to know, because I did fool around with a lot of things like materials, textures, bounciness, rigid bodies, and things like that, and I just couldn't really get the kind of effect that I was looking for in the original Crazy Cabbie, where you just jump and then it snaps back down really nicely. So yeah, feel free to leave a comment if you have some other approach in mind, and I'll definitely try that out, because I don't know, changing the gravity seems a little bit like cheating to me. I don't know. So yeah, so that's how to make the game snappy. Now, another thing I'm going to talk about, which I'm not going to go into detail at all, is the colliders on your car as well as your taxi. That is your car as well as your obstacles. At the moment, they were perfect squares, right? I did them really quickly. But in the original game, and when you're testing your game, you'll realize that some of the collisions look a little bit unrealistic. Because look, at this point here, right? Like, let's say you're jumping and you collide with the car and you're over it, and here the obstacle is, but, you know, maybe this part of the car, this part of the collider is colliding with the obstacles, this part, right? So air here on your player is colliding with air here, and that would just leave, you know, the player who's playing the game unsatisfied, because he could see like daylight through the two collisions, and you're pretty much going to be triggering the game over screen. So I'm not going to go through the tweaking, but you're going to have to change these colliders to pretty much suit the best game feel. Okay, what I mean is, in the original game, my colliders were much smaller than the original car. In fact, if you have to make it like even smaller in the Y, let me just show you what I mean. So where is it? So let's see the size. Like if you have to, yeah, so if you have to make it even smaller, like so, and maybe even move it down. So let's move it down a little bit, like so. And make it smaller again in the x-axis and the y and z-axis, and like so, right? And more so than your taxi, you'll have to do these tweakings to your obstacles. Now you might say, well, oh hey, but you missed this little front bonnet out here. But look, your car is going to be traveling at a quick speed. So you, as I said, the collisions in your game, they don't need to be freaking realistic, okay? But they need to be believable. Yeah, you need to be able to sell the idea that the car is colliding, right? So, you know, if the car is actually colliding, but it doesn't look like it's colliding, then, you know, maybe it shouldn't collide. Because the user is going to be thinking like, what? You know, I mean, how many times have you been playing a game where we die and we're just kind of like trying to find out, hey, what did I exactly do wrong here? So you don't want the user to have that kind of a feeling. And I was able to avoid that in most cases by pretty much tweaking my box colliders on my taxi as well as on my obstacles. So that's all I wanted to say on that one. Maybe I can just revert these changes because I don't like them so much. Maybe I overdid them on the taxi, but I definitely did go overboard on the obstacles. So those are the little tweaking things I said. Now, look, I was not going to waste time and purposely like just do these like million tweaks for you, but honestly, getting those collisions and then getting the jumping right with the gravity and the jump velocity situation that we're using, that took me, you know, a solid time. Like that was something which I just had in the back burner, and I was working on other things, but I was constantly tweaking. But I just knew that, okay, tweaking is the best solution that I had. So that actually, you could say it took me a whole week maybe just to get a perfect feel for the game. Now I'm already telling you the answer, so it's going to look easier. I already told you the gravity situation and such, and you might try those numbers, and maybe a little bit less or a little bit more might work perfectly for you. But just know that in your own game, when you're working on your own game, it might take you a little bit longer. So yeah, as long as you've got the mechanics going, you can keep tweaking, or it's really not our job as a developer to be doing these tweakings usually if you're working in a team. So it's usually up to the designer. But in your case, if you're working alone, then you have to do that stuff as well. So you have to pretty much work on coding the mechanics, and then maybe let your designer self take over and, you know, give your designer a bit of a basically a go and let him try to figure it out, and back and forth and back and forth. So that's what I wanted to say about tweaking. All right, so the other issue I want to talk about is the pickups. So why is that happening? Okay, so let's look at the code here in our road manager. Man, I already have a bad feeling this is going to go way overboard, but this is it. This is the last, or well, the wrap-up video, because I already said it in the beginning and I can't take it back now. So over here, what we were doing was in update environment tiles, we said, we even commented, first of all, let's disable any pre-existing obstacles and pickups. So let's have a look at what we're doing. There you go. That's the issue. Anyways, so let's look at our environment and environment child. So we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the first 5 child and 6, 7, 8. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, yeah. So we were pretty much disabling them all, right? What we said that we're going to, when we are respawning, right? Or not respawning, rather repositioning an environment tile, we were by default, we were just turning them all off, right? And we said this would solve it. Excuse me, and we said that this would solve the problem. But here's what we're forgetting. What's happening is that when we turn on one of these tiles, right, and let's say we enable this pickup. Initially, it works fine. And somewhere in the code, we come here and we enable this little pickup pattern, right? Then our player goes through and he starts picking these up. And these pickups are actually a child of this pickup, okay? So what we do is as we start passing through, we actually end up disabling these, okay? I hope that this makes sense. Now, as you can see, these get disabled, but now what I do is at the time when I'm repositioning my environment tiles, I don't go back and enable these. I pretty much go here and I disable this, okay? And now later on, when I enable the same tile pattern, I have those pickups missing. So the ones which I have already picked up, they are missing. Now I know this is a little bit confusing, but you know, if you're still confused, rewind it and listen to it and really try and think about what's going on. And I think there is no better way that I can explain this. So I will quickly say that one more time. I'm going to enable all of them. When we reposition our tiles, we disable all of the child obstacles and pickups. Now, the obstacles are not the issue because when we hit the obstacles, it's game over, doesn't matter. The pickups are the real issue. So these 3 right here, child number, what is it? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So 5, 6, and 7. So what happens is when we enable one of these patterns, as is visible here, and as our car passes through, we end up actually disabling these childed individual pickups. And then at the end, when we are repositioning it, we're not actually enabling them back again. You notice how even though all of these children are disabled, but when they get enabled, we want all their children to be enabled. Does that make sense? I mean, we don't want some of their children to be enabled. When we enable these obstacles, we want all of the ones, or these pickups, we want this particular pattern to be entirely open, regardless of whether we picked them up before or not. So I'm going to go ahead and change this back. And maybe let's have a look at how we can solve this issue. Okay, so this might be a good place to deal with this. Let me just think about how I want to do this real quickly. Okay, where do I want to do this? Okay, this is just off the top of my head. Maybe I could think of a better way later on, but maybe we can do an if statement here. So if, and we can check if we're dealing with those particular children, that is the pickup patterns. Let's first do something and enable them all. Okay, so let's just see if I is equal to I is less than, nope, so less than or equal to, yeah, I'm sorry about this, guys. I mean, I'm now on a Windows after a week pretty much. I've been sick and my keyboard right now is in Turkish, so it's just craziness. So if I is equal to less than or equal to so 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so 6, so 5. When I is 5, we are dealing with a pickup pattern. So we are dealing with pickup pattern. And now what we want to do, and that is, wow, how did that happen? I don't even know. So we are dealing with pickup pattern, and now we want to somehow get the children within this, and we want to enable them. So maybe let's try another for loop. So for let's do int j equals 0 and j less than, and we maybe want to do j less than, well, the child count, right? So we want to pretty much go and one by one enable them all. So we want to have a way of getting the child count. Now I believe there is a way that we can do that. What we can do is get the game object. So this is the game object. I'm going to copy it if my computer allows me. So so this is the particular game object that we're dealing with. So we have our pickup pattern, and maybe there is something like child get component in children. That's not what I'm looking for. Dot count, dot child count. Okay, so that's not what I am looking for. Get child. Okay, so when we're stuck, we look it up. So how to get the child count of object unity. Okay. Transform.child count. Okay, so let's try this. Game object.transform.child count. Okay, this seems to be it, hopefully, and we'll see. So for int j equals to 0, we get the game object. Now this is getting a little bit big, and you know it's really bad practice to have that many dot operators. So you could, you know, extrapolate this into a variable and such, but I'm not going to bother right now. So get child count and j++. So what am I thinking? J++, and so okay. So once we have a pickup pattern, we are looping over all. We are looping over all of the pickups, and we want to make them active. Okay, so now we need to go from this to the children of this. Okay, so I'm going to copy this. This is inception of the highest level. Dot get child. Okay, so let's try transform dot get child j. So let's get the jth child dot dot game object dot set active true. Okay, now before I continue to bullshit on and this doesn't work, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and run this and see if it actually works. And if it works, then I will explain one more time. Now, logically speaking, I think this should work. Let's see. Would be ironic if it just blew up. Would be ironic. Wouldn't be the first time though. Oh boy. Oh boy. I'm sorry guys. I'm just quite unwell. Okay, so I'm just gonna stick in this middle lane right now and see if I seem to come up with any weird patterns. It doesn't seem to be the case. So wow, I'm getting good, it seems, guys. I'm getting good first time. So yeah, as you can see, nothing odd in the middle lane. I'm not seeing anyone, and there they are back again. So I think we fixed the issue. If it still persists, I'll definitely fix this as well. So I think this is a good little way. Now let's look at what I did. Look, what did I do? Okay. So what I did was, the issue was that when we were repositioning these tiles, we would first enable a pickup pattern, right? And then we would pick them up, and as we would pick them up, we would disable these pickups, which are child objects of these pickup patterns. But at the end, when we were repositioning them, we were forgetting to pretty much enable these pickups, these individual pickups again. So we were disabling the pickup patterns, right? And we were disabling the pickup pattern and then enabling the a new pickup pattern. But what was happening is we were never enabling these little pickups, so they were always missing once we picked them up, and therefore your pickups were going to run out eventually once you had them all. So that's the issue that we were having there. So we've solved that now. The way we did that was we just put where we were disabling the pre-existing obstacles and pickups, we just checked, we used a dirty way, and we just checked, all right, so when we are dealing with the, so when we're dealing with the 5th child and the 6th child and the 7th child, we just did another for loop and we went into each child, and this is going to really help you child count. So how to get the child count of a child and such, and things like that. So and how to enable or disable a child within a child and such, like we did. So get child I, get child J. So hopefully this is something nice. So that's what I wanted to say with respect to that. Now, one last thing I want to do with this game is I want to add some sound to it. God, the game is dead. So I made a audio folder and I threw in some music. Now, feel free to use your own music. I will put some links in the description later, not right now, but later, of places where I like to find some nice little music. So first of all, what I can do is on your, let's see. All right, so we have an audio listener here on our camera. So what I can do is on our camera, I can, in fact, let's throw something on our car. So let's throw an audio source on my car. And what I can do is over here, I can set this as a, so this is going to be my background sound, and if I hit play now, so we have some background music, right? But that's not exactly what I want, so I'm going to change that for a second. I'm going to remove this from here, okay? And I'm going to go on my camera, and I'm just going to go ahead and attach the sound on my camera, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and drag and drop my sound here, and I will set it to loop, so when it finishes, it starts again, okay? Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on my taxi, and I'll add another audio source because the other sounds I want them to be, well, because the main source of those is going to be our taxi. So I'll throw in an audio source on my taxi. Okay, so now I can go in my car movement script, and maybe we can start beginning to uncomment some of those code. So we had some public variables, so I'm going to uncomment them and explain to you what they are. So these are the individual, as you can see, audio clips. So jump sound, collision sound, move sound, pickup sound, and this is the audio source component, which is actually going to, it's kind of like the speaker, which is going to play these sounds. So if I jump back to my car movement script, you'll see a lot of new variables as soon as it's done refreshing. Okay, so for the jump sound, we have the jump sound. I'm checking simply because they're not the same name. Collision sounds about right. And there is the move sound. So I think this was the move sound. And reward, that wasn't it. This is it. So this was it. And it's looking for an audio source, which is going to play this, and I'm going to put this audio source in. Okay. And that's okay. And I think we're ready to go. So let's switch back here. Now we've got all our audio sources. The audio clips, and we've got our audio source. Once again, since this is a public variable, we were able to easily drag and drop. Otherwise, we could have made it private, and we could have done something like rigid body, audio source.get component, audio source, because this audio source component is on this taxi, and the script is also on that taxi. Okay, so now we need to start thinking about playing these sounds. So we need to play the jump sound, that is this one, when we jump. So over here, if I uncomment this line of code here, it takes the audio source dot play one shot, means play it one time, and you pass in the jump sound. And over here, this little variable is an optional variable, and it controls pretty much the sound. So I guess 0 is muted and 1 pretty much is the maximum, I think. But I could be wrong, but I think that's what it is. So again, this is just tweaking, right? So whatever your sounds are, you can see which one feels nice. Now, before I do the rest, let me just check if this works. All right, so it seems to be working. All right, so we can now go on to our slide right and slide left. I'm going to uncomment this, and obviously I'm uncommenting them, but you guys will be writing this code or etc. noting this down. So once again, play one shot, just play it one time, move sound, and at this point I made it 0.25 because it was too loud with respect to the other sounds. And also in move left. So now we've got our right, left, and jump sound pretty much done. Now we need to do the collision sound. So as I left a comment here, so add game over sound here, so I can just copy paste this like so. And instead of the move sound, we're going to be playing the collision sound. Where is it? So like so, and let's make this 1F. Alright, so is there anything else that we had to do? Pickup sound, yes. So let's go ahead and do that. Once again, I have added a little value here, but that's just personal preference. Okay, so let's save that and see if everything seems to be working just fine. Pickups working, and boom. Alright. So that pretty much concludes what I wanted to talk about. I'm glad that even in the sleep-deprived sick state, I have been able to get through with this. Now, here are the big announcements. First of all, this is all I had planned for the scope of this tutorial initially. And this is where I'm going to at least pause for just a little while. I don't know how long, maybe a couple of days, a couple of weeks. I don't know, maybe not a couple of weeks, but yeah. So this was what I'm trying to say is that this is going to be the wrap-up episode, but I will definitely be coming back with some bonus episodes. For example, one of the users, I don't think I have YouTube pulled up here, so if I can open it. So one of the users in the last video, he suggested, all right, well, I'm not going to go to my creator studio, yeah, so one of the users said that I should do a store. I should do a store option. So that's something that I'm definitely thinking about. So yeah, the store is something that I'm thinking about. And another thing that I want to talk about is, first of all, why the hell is this pickup pattern open? And second of all, another cool thing that I was thinking was maybe at a later point, and you guys are free to try this out on your own, but maybe some sort of a shooting projectile right at the front of your car, and which hits the oncoming car and it kind of explodes, and you know, the car blows up or something, and you're going right through the particles. Now I can already imagine all the FPS drops, but I think that'll be fun. And if you can tweak the particle systems, or if you can find some low poly, or if you can reduce the number of particles in the particle system, etc., you should be fine. So that's something that I have in my mind as well. I just kind of, the Fast and Furious type situation comes in my mind, where you know, you shoot some sort of like bazooka onto the next car and then you're blowing through its ashes or something. So that's something cool as well. And yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about here. One more thing, I said in my previous, in a comment, that I will talk about shop a little bit. So for those of you who want to maybe try experimenting and building a shop of your own, I'm going to tell you how I would attempt to do it. And this is going to be a demo a prototype shop. Okay, so what I'm going to tell you is I'm going to kind of tell you how I would think about setting up a prototype shop in a game like this one, where there is some in-game currency, but there's no in-app purchases and such. Okay, the reason why I say this is because I have not experienced in-app purchases and such, and for that you need some sort of cloud saving, and you need other things. But if it's going to be a simple project, and if you're not really going to be taking money from the user and such, then you might be able to get away with simple player prefs. And definitely player prefs is a good way to get started, especially if you just want to do a proof of concept, right? So there are people, you might want to make a shop in your game. You don't want to go through the whole process of making some sort of cloud situation service saving. You just don't want to think about that. So go ahead, build your UI, build all your little pieces that you need to sell in your shop, and you can use player prefs. What do I mean by player prefs? So what you might do is something like this. You go to your, you go to your menu. So over here, where there's a play button, let's say you have a shop button, right? You click on the shop button, you go to a brand new scene, right? So let's say create new scene and test. Okay, so now you navigate to this scene. Over here, what you do is, let's say you've got some sort of road or whatever, some sort of I don't know, UI you can have, depending on your game, 2D, 3D, you have some sort of boxes and such. And let's say, let's throw in some cars. So, and of course it's your job to make it look prettier, but just saying. So let's throw in some cars here and a police car. So like so, and not road 4. So let's throw in our taxi. And maybe you can throw in your background, and maybe you can rotate them, and the user can click on them, and when the user clicks on them, they start rotating or something, right? Maybe write a simple rotating script to tell the user that this is the car which is selected. Now, also, you might want to have some sort of a lock or unlock situation. So you pick up a certain amount of gems, and then you unlock certain cars. Well, player prefs is a really easy way of doing that, right? We're saving our gems or our high score, aren't we? So you can also maybe, if you think about it, and I want you to think about this on your own, you can have a running counter of all the gems that your user or the player has picked up all the time. So, for example, you keep the high score, but you also keep a total gems picked in the user's lifetime. Again, this would be saved locally in the phone, and you would just do this using player prefs. You would save it in gem count or something, and each time the game ends, you would check for the high score, but the gems that the user picked up in that particular instance of a game, you would just add those onto the gems that he had previously, right? So you could show the user how many gems he has. So I don't know if I have a screenshot for this, but let me just see. So yeah, so I don't have a, so in this game, again, I don't have a menu scene, but over here in this game, there is a stats scene, and in the stats, you can see a total number of gems that the user has picked up. And obviously I did that because I want to later implement a store. So you can keep a counter of the gems, and you can pretty much update the counter depending on the card that he picked. I hope that is kind of making some sense. I'm trying to give you a high overview of making a prototype shop using player prefs. I emphasize again that player prefs are player preferences. So you usually save things like if they want to keep their sound muted or not, or if they want to show a tutorial, or if they've already seen a tutorial and stuff. So player prefs are not something which you would be using in a game where you actually want to maybe publish it, or if you're using it, like for example, maybe you start selling some gems and people are buying these gems, and if you're saving them using player prefs, man, if they're going to reset their phone, it's going to be gone and they're going to be pissed. And you've seen that all the time. Just open any kind of app, and like the bad ones, you'll see a lot of people complaining like I bought this many and now my phone reset and all my progress is gone. So that is what player prefs does. for the sake of our game, for the sake of this tutorial, it's a very simple game, and really it's not a micromanagement game. It's not a Clash of Clans or anything like that where the people person is going to be like pissed the fuck off, like, oh dude, I lost all my progress, all my gems, all my score. It's not going to happen. So that's why I haven't talked about it. It's also a bit of an advanced concept, which, as I said again, I have not personally experienced, simply because I haven't built anything that big. Honestly, it's a bit shameful, but it's true. So definitely, as I get to that point, I will look at that. But a preliminary shop tutorial is in the pipeline, so to speak, where I will be using some some sort of a player pref situation and setting up a preliminary shop. So that's what I wanted to say about people who do want to attempt the shop. Okay, so I know this tutorial is super long. So lastly, for those of you who have made it through this tutorial, congratulations. This was my first tutorial series anywhere in my life, and I have had so much fun. I have learned so much. As I've said repeatedly that during this course, my god, the original scripts were so horrible, and honestly, by going through and rewriting these scripts, I have learned so much more, and it tells me that I've come a long way, and I hope that you've come a long way and you've learned something from this tutorial as well. So if you've enjoyed this, if you've learned something, anything, then please just drop a like, drop a comment, let me know. If you think that I'm doing a good job, let me know. If you think I'm going too fast, too slow, if you think I'm doing a bad job, let me know. Because I am someone who is trying to improve. I am hungry to learn, as are you. So help me help you. You know what I'm saying? So that's all I want to say for now. Thank you so much. I really, really love you guys. All the people who have subscribed, all the people who are commenting, who are liking. It means the world to me. So thank you so much, and I will see you soon in the next video.